Today, I want to share a few thoughts about forgiveness. When I think of forgiveness, I usually think of forgiving others, those who have hurt me, those who made my life difficult. Some great spiritual teachers, like Jesus, even in their final moments, prayed for forgiveness for those who wronged them. Confucius, in the Analects, taught that forgiveness should be a guiding principle throughout our lives, but the highest form of forgiveness is to forgive myself. To forgive myself is to let go of past wounds and look ahead with hope. It means looking back at my life filled with regrets and saying gently, I've done well enough. I've tried my best. I take a moment and reflect. How many regrets do I carry? Lying to my parents as a child, taking something that wasn't mine, hurting my children with harsh words, failing to keep promises to myself, not living as sincerely as I could have, and the many careless words that left others wounded. These regrets keep coming back, endlessly, and I wish I had done better. It hurts. Now, I pause and look at myself, struggling under the weight of these regrets. There I am, trapped in moments that can never return. Isn't that a little heartbreaking? I deserve kindness. I quietly hold myself close. I begin to accept myself. I forgive the clumsy, imperfect version of me. To forgive myself is to let go of the pain of the past and to start loving myself again. When I forgive who I once was, I find the strength to move forward, and hope returns. This is why, among all acts of forgiveness, the greatest is forgiving myself. Before I forgive others, I take that first step. I forgive myself.